Lifestyle medicine, we've talked about it before, but now we're going to talk about it for children. I'm Dr. Paul Zalzo.
I'm Dr. Brad Winning. Welcome to Talking with Docs. We have a special guest today that's going to give you their expertise on this topic, Dr. Rick Patel. Welcome to our channel.
Hey, thank you so much. Hey, I'm Dr. Patel. I'm a pediatrician and a board-certified lifestyle medicine, specifically focusing on lifestyle medicine for children. I just opened up recently a new clinic, Reset Pediatric Lifestyle Medicine, which is a virtual clinic focusing on so many chronic diseases that are impacting our younger generation and using our lifestyle lens, the 6 pillars, as our approach to addressing these chronic conditions.
Okay, so the pillars are the same for kids and for adults.
They are.
Let's talk about the
Are
pillars.
the pillars smaller?
Fair enough.
You said board certified. Does
Yeah.
that mean so is that now a board certification?
Yeah, so you can get board certified in lifestyle medicine by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And there's a huge movement. It's the fastest growing specialty in North America at this time.
Is it an American Board of Lifestyle Medicine is under the auspice of the
American College of Lifestyle. So it's the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and then there's also an International Board of Lifestyle Medicine.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
both in North America and outside, you can get board certified.
Do you have to be an MD to get board certified as that, or you can be?
What's amazing is that because they really want to increase the scale of lifestyle medicine in healthcare, they're allowing pharmacists, dietitians, coaches, physicians, nurses, people from all walks of life in healthcare to take on these principles and grow the movement.
Cool. And how long has that been around? Sorry to interrupt. How long has that been around?
So the American College of Lifestyle Medicine started as an organization, I think around 2014.
Okay.
So it's fairly
so
recent,
the
and
last 10 years.
they started board certification, I think around 2016-17.
And I think what's happened with lifestyle medicine, the reason it's becoming popular is because we've never had more money, never had more access to care, we've never had more technology, and we've never been sicker. So everyone's like, listen, whatever we're doing is not working.
Yeah.
So let's try to get in front of some of these chronic diseases and prevent them rather than just chronically managing them.
Yeah, what's amazing to see, if you look at the wealthiest countries in the world, they also have the poorest outcomes in terms of health.
Wow.
And so this is speaking to the point that you can put a lot of money towards healthcare, but is it being focused and used with the right
And
ways?
that's ironic because one of the social determinants of health is socioeconomic status. So
Yeah.
I guess that's within the economy that you're in where that determinant of health, but if you look globally, maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do a brief overview of the 6 pillars, and then we're gonna do some separate videos about each of the pillars. So let's start at number 1. What's the first pillar?
So the first pillar in lifestyle medicine is nutrition.
Okay.
So there's a focus on more of a plant, strong diet that I like to call.
Yeah.
The second pillar is restorative sleep. So seeing sleep as a superpower.
Yeah.
Third is physical activity and movement. The fourth is risky substance management or avoiding risky substances. The fifth pillar is connections and relationships, because our relationships matter. And the sixth is stress resilience, how we are dealing with stress. I always say to families, just like taxes, stress is guaranteed.
Right. And I think what a lot of people didn't think of is kids just kind of were always so resilient. They just kind of were going along life and it was fine. But what we're realizing that our kids are having a lot of the same problems that adults are, and that never has become more apparent than since the pandemic.
Yeah.
I hate that statement. Kids are resilient. Children,
Yeah.
I don't think they are. So like to a certain degree, yeah, but they need support. You know?
Yeah.
And that's awesome that you're going through this.
A couple of really telling stats. Right now in Canada, 22% of children and adolescents have at least one chronic disease. And as soon as you look at adults over 20, that number jumps to 44% of
Okay.
1 of 10 chronic diseases.
Okay, so and just in the short version, other than watching this video, what is the best way for people to become accustomed to and incorporate lifestyle medicine into their lives or their kids' or grandchildren's lives?
So, I mean, the best way to look at our lifestyle is just look at everything you're doing in your life, from all of these 6 pillars. We're really fortunate now that we have physical activity guidelines, sitting guidelines, we have nutrition guidelines as well. So really looking at these guidelines and comparing it to where you're at right now is a really powerful way in the context of your own health to make that small step forward in the right direction.
Okay.
So can we go through the pillars a little bit?
Sure.
Pillar 1, I think, was the diet.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said plant strong. Okay, I've never really heard anyone say plant strong before, but can you just sort of, in like a sentence or two, tell me what you mean by that?
Yeah, so the Canada Food Guidelines was revamped in 2019, and what was really interesting about that is there was the health minister at that time was a physician, Dr. Jane Philpott. She did something really unique at that time. First of all, she pushed out all the industries and lobbyists that would want to have an impact, pushed them all out of the room, and she tried to use the most current evidence base to inform the guidelines.
Right.
When I talk about the guidelines to families, I usually talk about 4 big changes that have happened since the previous guidelines. We have now moved away from portion sizes and food groups specifically to a plate method. Right. So what that involves is that when we look at our plate, half the plate is fruits and vegetables. Again, a huge emphasis on fiber in our diet. There's also been a shift from white refined grains to whole grains that are complex carbs. Right. The third big change that I talk about is that milk has been removed and water is now the beverage of choice.
Right.
And finally, the fourth big change is that meat as a food group has been removed, and there's emphasis on a variety of protein sources, but specifically plant protein sources. And the reason why is because both will have protein, but only the plant sources will have the fiber.
Right.
Okay, so it's not like they're saying don't eat meat, they're saying consider protein from plants in addition to or in replacement of.
Exactly, and the reason why there's been such a big shift of removing animal protein or reducing its consumption is because of its association, strong association, so much research on increased risk of obesity, heart disease, high cholesterol,
cancer,
diabetes, and cancer.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that was pillar 1.
Okay, so more plants. Number 2.
So the second pillar is sleep. So restorative sleep. I mean, I can't say enough about sleep. And in fact, when families come to our clinic, when I want to talk about all the other lifestyle changes, I talk about getting sleep in place first.
Okay.
The reason why sleep is so powerful, and I want families to see it as their superpower because it's so critical, especially for children, has impact on their development.
Yep.
Such as like memory formation, mood control, learning.
Literally their growth, right? Growth hormone goes down when you don't get proper sleep.
Yeah. Even the hormone leptin that regulates our appetite.
Right.
So I often connect families with the quality of your sleep and how much you're sleeping. That's actually also connected to what we're putting in our mouth.
Right, make you make bad food choices because you're tired.
Yeah.
Like as residents, we all knew during training, right? Middle of the night, 3 in the morning, you feel bad for yourself. You haven't slept for a long time. You make a bad food choice. And if you do that all the time, obviously chronically, the accumulation of all those bad choices are huge.
Okay, what about the teenager that's sleeping until noon on the weekend? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Should I be getting my kid up before noon? Time for, brunch, time for lunch, waking up in time for dinner?
Yeah, having all 3 meals in the day is really important. And I think what's really important when we're looking at sleep, when we're looking at suggestions, or at least a place to start, is if we can usually get the sleep time, the bedtime in place, that really helps determine when the wake up time is. So I really, I feel like waking up naturally happens if we just choose the appropriate sleep time. And in fact, they've actually looked at what, sleep strategies are going to be the most impactful in improving sleep quality. And it's in fact just the regularity by which we're choosing the bedtime.
Right.
So just focusing on this one aspect will help so many other things.
Essentially trying to make it the same time.
Yeah, ideally making it the same time. Obviously, we know on weekends, there's going to be a little bit of a give, and that's totally okay. I understand special occasions come up, birthdays. There's so many different things.
Friday.
That's
the special
weekend.
occasion.
Thank goodness it's Fridays, right?
Right.
So, but again, the reason what we wanted to talk about specifically also with sleep is that because it has so many important functions in our brain, we also want to look at just overall measures by how we can improve our sleep quality. And there's so many reasons right now why kids are having challenges with their sleep. Too much screen time before bed, right? Having large meals, late up studying.
Caffeinated beverages.
Beverages.
Yep.
Worrying a lot. The degree of anxiety has skyrocketed in kids and adolescents these days. So these are all reasons why kids are staying up too late and not getting enough sleep. We know that in Canada, 30% of kids are reporting sleep problems. And in a study they did in the US, between the ages of 6 and 17, 50% of kids are not getting enough sleep.
Oh, wow.
So it is a major challenge. And for how important it is for so many of the other pillars of our lifestyle, I can't emphasize it enough.
Right.
Okay.
We'll talk about movement,
Okay.
physical activity,
Okay.
right?
Physical activity.
So physical activity is really important. I know there's a big distinction now with physical activity. Not only are we talking about being active enough, so exercise, and knowing that exercise is different than physical activity. So what I tell families is that you can be physically active, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're exercising. So all exercise is physical activity, but not all physical activity is exercise. And we'll get into it's not only just about how much time you're putting in exercise, but the intensity of how we're exercising, right?
Okay.
The reason why this topic is so very important is especially the 24-hour movement guidelines that we have, which is actually Canada was the first country to publish a 24-hour movement guideline. They distinguish between exercise and sitting time, right? So there's a huge movement, especially in the lifestyle world, which is move more, sit less.
Actually, Paul last week said sitting is the new smoking.
Sitting is new smoking.
Yeah.
I always say that.
It is the new smoking. And if we had to, for kids, if we took that analogy to kids, I would think that a lot of kids are doing some heavy smoking right now because the sitting
screening
time,
or gaming or whatever.
it's really big.
Yeah.
Sedentary activity. Think of it anytime and you're doing anything low energy expenditure, sitting, reaching, lying down. These all include. And the reason why this is really important to consider is because when you're getting too much of it, you're increasing your risk for obesity, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, mental health conditions such as depression. And we know that when you're sitting too much, your increased risk of premature mortality goes way up.
And exercise helps you sleep. Exercising during the day, expending energy allows you to sleep better.
Tied together.
It's all tied together.
Eat some plants, get some sleep, jump around. What's number 4?
So number 4 is avoiding risky substances or management risk.
Self-explanatory, right? Self-explanatory. You just
So alcohol, drugs, caffeine, would you say those are like our big 3?
Yes, but in children, I look at it differently.
Okay.
The risky substances in children, 1, screen time.
Okay.
Whoa.
Oh, interesting.
I see that as a risky substance.
I like that.
I see the second risky substance is smoking and vaping.
Yep.
Right. So that, and the third big risky substance in kids is ultra-processed foods. Right. So I see it as a triangle of these 3 things. Right.
I get you.
Yeah.
Ultra-processed foods. Please understand that now 50 to 70% of calories in a child's diet is coming from ultra-processed foods. That is an enormous amount.
That's ultra.
And the problem is twofold, I guess, because 1, you're getting a bunch of added chemicals, but also typically they're fiber devoid, right? Back to our fiber thing, right? Nutrient and fiber devoid.
Yeah. And
calorically dense, I guess, too.
the food industry really corners us because they're trying to increase 3 ingredients in all our foods: sugar, salt, and fat. Right? These are the 3 things because they know, especially in children, there's such a focus on advertising. If we hook the child now, we have a customer for life.
Right, and they have scientists literally doing this job to make you addicted to ultra-processed foods.
Yeah, it's a really, really big challenge.
All right.
That's interesting about substance. I never thought of it that way for kids.
Yeah,
This is
I
very,
didn't-
it's not that they're drinking necessarily, and
I mean, all of those things that you
Of
mentioned
course.
are still
But if you're
valid
8,
and
usually
relevant.
that's not a problem.
Right?
Yeah.
But these are the 3 things that I reframe for kids as our risky substances.
Love that.
All right, so we've got to eat some plants, we got to get some sleep, we got to jump around, we got to stop eating the ultra-processed foods, the screen time, and the smoking and vaping. What's number 5?
Social connections.
There you go.
So-
Now, does the screen time is so tied to social connections with
Right,
kids,
I'm on
right? That's-
social media. It's
right,
literally
it's
in the
social.
term.
Yeah, how do you reconcile
It's the anti-social
that? How
media,
do you
right?
reconcile that?
So we know that when we're on screens too much, especially when we look at our younger kids, something that was happening during the pandemic because everyone was isolated is that the screen time went through the roof.
Yeah.
What happened was I had just lines of young kids below the age of 2 coming in with speech delay and poor social skills. This was a real thing. We have research now to back this up.
Sure.
That, the screen time guideline, between the ages of 0 and 2, ideally no screen time at all, right? Between the ages of 2 and 5 is generally max 1 hour a day, and pretty much after the age of 5 to all the way through your childhood up to 18, the general recommendation is between 2 to 3 hours. However, we know that the reality is far from this, right? We know that in that first year of life, the average amount of time is close to an hour, right? Between the ages of 2 and 5, it's around 2.5 hours. And when we get above 5, it's, as we get older, 3, 6, and even up to 9 hours a day is the reality. And the reason why this is really important is because it's tremendously reducing the amount of social time that people are having. I have kids that say that their closest friends are those that they're gaming with online, right? So we know, and this is why there's a simple thing that I talk about for families as a takeaway is just a simple family meal. There's been a lot of research around the family meal. And the reason why this is important is they've even studied this based on your age, what benefits you get from the family meal. So for our younger kids, in the toddler and infants, you're improving their vocabulary.
Their speech,
just by hearing. They're more likely to take to fruits and vegetables because of the parenting modeling they're seeing. When you're a slightly older child, it's been shown to you have better relationships with siblings, you're getting better grades, and now when you get to the teen years, they've shown that not only do you get better grades and you're at higher chances of getting an A, but you're also into less risky behaviors. Right?
You also get to share your opinion. Your parents get to tell you that your opinion's wrong. You know, and you're sharing, so you're having adult conversations. You get comfortable public speaking. Like you think, how many kids don't want to talk to adults because they don't talk to anybody?
It's probably what happened to my social skills. I finally cracked that nut.
So again, the family meal, getting outside. I talk about this all the time. They're looking to add a 7th pillar now to the lifestyle, and it's time in nature. And I'm always telling family the antidote to screen time is green time. Right? You know, time outside. We know now that as little as 20 minutes a day of time in nature reduces stress hormones. Right? We know that as little as 10 minutes a day can improve focus, impulse control, regulating your emotions. So this is part of every conversation that I'm having with families.
And science-based too, because there's been good studies that show runners that run in the city versus runners that run in the woods. It's very, very different, drops your blood pressure more, has way more health benefits.
Okay, so we're eating greens, we're getting our sleep, we're jumping around with our physical activity, we're avoiding the toxic substances, we're hanging out with our friends for the social connection.
Friends.
And what's the next one?
The last is how we're dealing with stress, right? And so this, as we know that the pressures are increasing every day, the world is moving at a faster rate, all of this is coming at a higher level of stress. We're all feeling it, especially in healthcare. And this is why lifestyle practices are so important. Taking time out for ourselves, whether it be just for, just to take a break in our day, right? Even if it's at lunch, just taking some time to ourselves. Practices that we can see that are really powerful, there's so much research around just having some type of mindfulness practice, a meditation practice. And again, it can look really simple. It can be a few minutes a day. There's so many great apps now that help us.
But you can use up your screen time, so be careful.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to that point that you made, I think when we look at screens, what's the purpose of screens, right? Because now families are coming to me and saying, hey, my kid's school is on the screen. And I always say, no problem. We know that screen time is there. We're not able to change it, but let's look at just a recreational screen time outside of school. So
we always tell people that talking with docs is exempt from that screen time.
Well,
it doesn't count.
Again, just hitting the point, as you mentioned, what's the purpose of our screen time? I think that's really a really important point to make as we're discussing screen time. But again, just going back to stress resilience, we know now that what we eat, even they've shown that stress is what's happening, has an oxidative effect in our body. Oxidative stress leads to a lot of our health problems and mental health symptoms, but that if we're also eating foods high in fruits and vegetables with high antioxidant activity, that's combating that oxidative stress. And in fact, we know there's research to show as a group of Seventh-day Adventists, having more fruits and vegetables in your diet has actually led to 4.5 years of longevity. Just even with those that have had adverse childhood experiences or ACEs, right?
I think the kids call this pillar chilling out.
There you go.
Chill.
So again, so many great activities that we mentioned: mindfulness, getting out in nature, having time with family. Again, all of these things, really powerful activities to help us combat stress at a time where we need it so much more.
Yeah.
Wow, those are awesome pillars. I like the nature one. I hope that does get promoted to a full pillar
Yeah.
as opposed to being an aside right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I for myself, I'm trying to now even transition my meetings to walking meetings outside.
Okay.
And they've shown that if you're walking meetings for us as docs, improves divergent and creative thinking.
Sure.
Right?
Makes sense. Sitting at a desk and-
something
Yeah.
to consider for all of us, right?
So I'm going to
Something-
change my screensaver
Right.
to a wilderness scene.
Yeah, and you have a point, because not only are they showing just not even being outside, but if you have a plant in the room, if
Yes.
you have a view to look at,
Wow.
if even if water is in the vicinity, all of this has been translated
Really?
into health benefits.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great summary. We're going to do a couple follow-ups on some of the pillars, kind of more specifically.
Deeper dive in
a
some of
deeper
them.
dive. But if you have experience with lifestyle medicine, or if any of this resonates with you, leave a comment. If you like this video, please like it. Subscribe to our channel.
And remember, you are in charge of your own health and your own pillars of health. Dr.
Love that.
Patel, thank you so much,
much.
man. That was amazing.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. We'll see you next time.